In the world of professional stage magic, there is no such thing as a wizard. The man waving his hands in the spotlight, wearing the custom-tailored leather jacket and flashing $1 million smile at the cameras, he's just an actor. He is a highly paid, charismatic distraction. The real magic doesn't happen on a glittering stage in Las Vegas. It happens in the shadows, far away from the applause, the confetti, and the pyrotechnics. It happens in workshops exactly like mine, where the air constantly smells like ozone, cutting fluid, hot metal, and sawdust. I am the one who builds the trapdoors. I design the optical mirrors, the hydraulic lifts, and the high-tension magnetic locks. I spend my life engineering flawless, incredibly dangerous systems of deception, so that a guy in a suit can snap his fingers and make the impossible look completely effortless. I am a master of misdirection and mechanical engineering. But the ultimate, tragic irony of my life is that I was so deeply focused on building illusions for the stage, I didn't realize the greatest, most devastating illusion I ever fell for was my own marriage. My name is Silas. I'm 37 years old, and for the last decade, I've been a master illusion designer and fabricator for some of the biggest, highest-grossing shows on the Las Vegas Strip. 5 years ago, I married Maya. When we first met, Maya was a stage assistant for a mid-tier illusionist, but she wasn't just a pretty girl whose only job was to stand next to a velvet box and look surprised. She was brilliant, fiercely intelligent, and she understood the psychology of a live audience better than anyone I had ever met. She knew exactly how to draw the eye, how to shift her posture to make 3,000 people look left while the actual trick happened on the right. She was completely drawn to the spotlight, and her ambition was a roaring fire. But being an assistant was never going to be enough for her. She didn't want to just be a prop on the stage. She wanted to own the entire theater. She wanted to be the lead producer of a massive Vegas entertainment empire, and she looked at my engineering skills as the perfect vehicle to drive her there. For the first 3 years of our marriage, we were an unstoppable creative team. But then, I started working on my absolute magnum opus. For 2 solid years, I practically lived in my workshop. I poured our life savings, my sanity, and every waking hour into building something that had never been done before in the history of live entertainment. I called it the Phantom Vault. It wasn't just another magic trick. It was a revolutionary, fully automated teleportation chamber. I utilized perfectly angled, military-grade optical glass, carbon fiber reinforced framing, and a system of whisper-quiet pneumatic actuators that ran on compressed nitrogen. The concept was breathtaking. A person could step inside this clear, brightly lit steel vault. A silk curtain would drop for literally a fraction of a second, and they would completely vanish, seemingly reappearing at the very back of the theater instantly. It relied on a high-speed mechanical trapdoor system that was so fast and so perfectly balanced, the human eye couldn't even register the drop. It was a flawless, million-dollar piece of stage engineering that pushed the absolute limits of modern physics. Building it nearly broke my body. There were nights I slept on the freezing concrete floor of my shop, covered in grease and metal shavings, just to wake up and recalibrate a single infrared sensor. But I did it all for us. I promised Maya that when it was finally finished, we would sell the exclusive patent to a top-tier Vegas casino. It would trigger a massive bidding war among the top performers. We would be set for life, and she would finally have the empire and the production company she always dreamed of. I gave her everything I had. But Maya didn't want to sell it with me. She looked at the blood, the sweat, and the genius I poured into that machine, and she decided she wanted all the glory, all the millions, and absolutely none of the husband. She didn't want to sell my masterpiece. She wanted to steal it. The shift in our marriage didn't happen overnight. It was a slow, agonizing fade, and it began when Maya started taking on independent consulting work for a guy named Damien. Damien was a 35-year-old hyper-arrogant television magician. He wore heavy black eyeliner, excessive silver jewelry, and constantly vlogged to his millions of teenage followers about his mind-bending supernatural powers. In the professional illusion industry, we call guys like Damien hacks. He had zero technical skill. He couldn't even palm a coin or shuffle a deck of cards to save his life. but he had a massive social media following, an incredible PR team, and millions of dollars in corporate backing. He was a manufactured product. Suddenly, Maya was spending all of her time at Damien's luxury penthouse, claiming she was helping him produce and design his upcoming, highly anticipated live national TV special. The red flags didn't just quietly appear, they exploded in my face like cheap stage pyrotechnics. First, the profound, unapologetic disrespect. Maya started bringing Damien directly into my private workshop, my sanctuary. Damien would strut around in his expensive boots, touching my precision tools with his perfectly manicured hands, and openly calling my life's work cute. "Silas, you're a really great carpenter, buddy," Damien smirked at me one afternoon, leaning against the steel frame of my phantom vault. "But you have to understand, I'm the one who brings the actual magic to the people. You just build the wooden boxes. I'm the one who creates the awe. I elevate the craft." Maya didn't defend me. She just stood next to him and nodded, looking at me like I was the hired help. Second, the intense secrecy regarding my blueprints. Maya started demanding a physical key to my secure, fireproof drafting cabinet. She claimed she urgently needed to review the safety specifications and load-bearing metrics of the Phantom Vault for a potential anonymous investor she was wooing. When I told her the digital files were encrypted for our protection, she threw a massive fit, accusing me of stifling her business growth and being paranoid. Third, the intimacy in our marriage completely and utterly vanished. She began treating me like a bothersome stagehand in my own home. When I tried to sit her down to talk about our future or when the patent for the vault would finalize, she would actively brush past me. "I don't have time for your anxiety today, Silas," she would sigh, rolling her eyes. "I'm too busy building an actual empire right now. Just focus on your tools." I know exactly how misdirection works. It's the oldest trick in the book. When the magician is aggressively waving his right hand in the air, yelling for your attention, you must force yourself to watch his quiet left hand. So, I stopped listening to Maya's excuses, and I started watching her left hand. Because I deal with highly confidential, multi-million-dollar stage secrets, I have motion-activated high-definition security cameras hidden deep in the steel rafters of my workshop. They were never meant to spy on my wife. They are there strictly to protect hundreds of thousands of dollars in intellectual property from corporate spies. One Saturday afternoon, while I was supposedly 2 towns over buying specialized steel tubing for a new project, my phone violently buzzed in my pocket. It was an automated security alert. Unauthorized movement detected in the primary shop. I pulled my truck into the parking lot of the hardware store, opened the security app, and pulled up the live, audio-enabled feed. It was Maya and Damien. They weren't just hooking up on my workbench, though that alone would have broken my heart. They were actively engaged in massive corporate espionage. They were walking around the Phantom Vault, using their phones to take high-resolution structural photographs of my proprietary CAD blueprints, the wiring harnesses, and the highly sensitive mechanical relays. Because the workshop was dead quiet, the highly sensitive microphone picked up their conversation with crystal clarity. Damien was running his hand over the polished steel of my teleportation chamber, his voice dripping with greed. "This is it, Maya. This is the Holy Grail. If I debut this exact illusion on the live TV special next month, the Vegas executives will lose their minds. They'll hand me a 10-year, $50 million residency on the spot. I'll have my lawyers patent this mechanism under my production company's name the very next morning, before he even knows what happened." Maya laughed, a cold, cruel sound I had never heard before. She leaned against his chest, completely at ease. "Silas has absolutely no idea. He's completely blind. Here is the timeline. When he goes to the National Engineering Expo in Chicago next week, we bring the moving truck right up to the loading dock. We take the vault, we take the hard drives, and we take the physical blueprints. I'll leave the signed divorce papers sitting right on his dirty workbench." Damien kissed her. "Are you sure he won't come after us?" "With what money?" Maya scoffed. "He poured everything we have into building this thing. He's just a mechanic, Damien. He doesn't have the legal funds to fight a corporate TV network and a billionaire production company. We will bury him in paperwork. We'll be royalty, baby." I sat alone in the sweltering cab of my truck, staring at the glowing screen of my phone until my vision blurred. My wife of 5 years was sleeping with a talentless hack. Together, they were actively plotting to steal my life's work, claim the multi-million-dollar patent for themselves, debut my genius on live national television, and leave me completely destitute, with nothing but a piece of paper on a greasy workbench. They thought I was just a naive blue-collar mechanic.
They forgot that the mechanic is the one who programs the failsafes, and he is the one who controls the trapdoors.
The absolute first rule of magic is never, ever reveal the secret. But the second, much more important rule is never let the mark know they are being played until the trap has already snapped shut. I didn't rush home. I didn't burst through the doors screaming and crying. I didn't lock the workshop and call the police. Because if I did that, Damien would just deny the entire thing. Maya would play the victim. And with the photos they already took, Damien would just hire a team of cheap engineers to build a sloppy, dangerous copy of my machine. I needed them to take my specific vault. I needed Damien to feel invincible. I needed him to proudly step inside my creation on live, unedited national television. That night, while Maya was fast asleep in our bedroom, dreaming of her stolen millions, I went quietly into the workshop. The core secret to the Phantom Vault was a high-speed, synchronized pneumatic trapdoor system. When the magician triggered the illusion, the silk curtain dropped, and in that split second, the floor gave way, instantly dropping the performer into a heavily padded, hidden subcompartment under the stage floor. Simultaneously, a series of optical mirrors snapped into place at a 45-degree angle, making the steel box look completely empty to the audience. It was a ballet of heavy machinery. I plugged my diagnostic laptop directly into the vault's central processing motherboard. I didn't take a hammer and break the machine. That would be too obvious. I just opened the source code and I rewrote the sequencing logic. I altered the pneumatic release timer with a delayed variable. For the first 20 times the trick was activated, it would execute flawlessly. Perfection. They could take it to their studio, practice with it, rehearse with it for weeks, and feel like absolute untouchable gods of magic. But on the 21st actuation, which my calculations dictated would land exactly during the climax of the live TV broadcast, the sequence would intentionally, catastrophically fail. First, the trapdoor wouldn't open all the way. It would jam precisely halfway down. Second, and much more importantly, instead of dropping the silk curtain to hide the mechanism, the explosive quick-release bolts holding the heavy steel walls of the vault together would fire prematurely. The entire exterior of the box would detach and fall completely flat to the stage floor, leaving nowhere to hide. I saved the code. I locked the motherboard. The next morning, I packed my bags for the engineering expo in Chicago. I kissed Maya goodbye at the door. "Have a really great trip, Silas," she smiled, handing me a travel mug of coffee. "You deserve a break." "Thanks, Maya," I replied, looking her dead in the eyes. "Take good care of the shop for me. You know that vault is my masterpiece." "I will protect it with my life," she promised. I never got on the plane to Chicago. I drove straight to the downtown offices of the most aggressive, ruthless intellectual property and entertainment litigator in the state of Nevada, a man whose entire job was destroying careers. I sat down at his mahogany conference table. I handed him my original, time-stamped blueprints. I handed him the high-definition security footage and the crystal-clear audio files of Damien and Maya explicitly conspiring to steal the files and the physical prop. And finally, I handed him the official, federally approved patent documentation for the Phantom Vault, which I had secretly expedited and secured exclusively in my own name months prior. My wife and her accomplice are going to debut this stolen, patented prop on live national television this Saturday night, I told my lawyer calmly. My lawyer reviewed the documents, listened to the audio, and slowly smiled like a shark smelling blood in the water. "Silas, utilizing stolen, patented engineering hardware for a commercial, for-profit national broadcast is a massive, willful federal violation. If he broadcasts this, we won't just sue him for damages. The statutory penalties are so severe, we will literally own his entire production company, his brand, and every penny he has ever made." "Draft the paperwork," I said, "but do not file the injunction yet. Do not stop the show. Let him broadcast it. I want him to put his face on it in front of the whole world." On Wednesday afternoon, sitting in a hotel room across town, my phone notified me that my workshop door had been breached. Through the security cameras, I watched Damien and his crew of stagehands illegally load my $1 million masterpiece into the back of a rented moving truck. I watched Maya walk over to my workbench, place a crisp white envelope containing divorce papers next to my tools, and walk out without looking back. They were laughing. They thought they had just executed the perfect, untouchable heist, but they had no idea they had just loaded a ticking bomb onto their own ship.
Saturday night, live from Las Vegas. 5 million people watching from their living rooms across the country, plus a sold-out theater of 3,000 screaming fans. I sat alone in my dark hotel room, the glow of the massive television illuminating my face. I poured myself 2 fingers of very expensive, very old bourbon. On the screen, Damien was hyping up the crowd, pacing back and forth across the stage, absolutely dripping with unearned confidence. The camera panned to the wings, and I saw Maya standing there, holding a clipboard, looking incredibly proud, believing she had just conquered the world. "Ladies and gentlemen," Damien yelled into his headset microphone, raising his arms. The music swelled. "I present to you an illusion never before seen in the history of magic, a feat of teleportation that defies the laws of physics, the Phantom Vault." The crowd went absolutely wild. Pyrotechnics exploded. The massive steel and glass chamber was rolled to the center of the stage. Damien stepped inside the vault. He struck a dramatic, heroic pose. The heavy studio lights focused entirely on him. The dramatic countdown began. 3, 2, 1. Damien reached down and hit the hidden trigger button inside the box. It was exactly the 21st actuation. Instead of a brilliant flash of light, a drop-in curtain, and a miraculous disappearing act, a loud, sickening mechanical clunk echoed through the theater's PA system. The pneumatic trapdoor beneath Damien's feet fired, but my altered code engaged the safety brakes. The floor only opened about 8 inches, just enough for Damien to lose his footing and fall waist-deep into the hole, getting wedged tightly in the gears. A split second later, the explosive quick-release bolts I had reprogrammed fired simultaneously. All 4 heavy steel exterior walls of the vault, which were supposed to hide the mechanism, violently detached from the frame and slammed completely flat onto the stage floor with a massive echoing crash. There was no smoke, there were no optical mirrors. The illusion was stripped bare. There was only Damien, live on national television, exposed in the center of a bare steel frame. He was frantically and awkwardly trying to shove his legs down into a tiny padded hole in the floor because the trapdoor was jammed. He was stuck halfway down, his rear end sticking prominently up in the air. Worse, the force of the drop had ripped his tearaway pants completely off, leaving him struggling on live TV in a pair of bright pink performance shorts. He looked like a panicked, glittering turtle, desperately trying to crawl backwards into a sewer grate. For 5 agonizing seconds, the entire Las Vegas theater went dead, pin-drop silent. The audience couldn't comprehend what they were seeing. And then 3,000 people erupted into uncontrollable, hysterical, deafening laughter. The live television cameras, completely unprepared for the disaster, zoomed in right on Damien's panicked face as he violently wriggled, screaming for his stagehands to help him out of the hole. Maya ran out from the wings and onto the live stage, waving her arms frantically, screaming at the cameramen to cut the feed. She was hyperventilating, completely humiliating herself on the national broadcast as the crowd booed and laughed. I took a slow, deeply satisfying sip of my bourbon, letting the burn settle in my chest. The illusion was over. The fallout was an absolute, unmitigated, scorched earth disaster. The video of Damien stuck in the floor wearing pink spandex went viral globally within 10 minutes. By Sunday morning, he was the biggest laughingstock in the history of the entertainment industry. He was relentlessly mocked on every late-night talk show. The furious Vegas casino executives who were sitting in the front row of the audience canceled his $50 million residency contract before his stagehands even managed to pry him out of the trapdoor. The television network, humiliated by the live disaster, immediately sued Damien for massive breach of contract and for ruining a highly expensive primetime advertising slot. But the real magic trick, my grand finale, happened on Monday morning at 9 a.m. My lawyer formally served Damien's production company and Maya personally with a massive federal lawsuit for willful intellectual property theft, corporate espionage, and patent infringement. Damien's entire company was instantly frozen by federal injunction. When the judges saw the crystal-clear security video and heard the audio evidence of them explicitly conspiring to steal my prop and bypass my patents, they showed absolutely zero mercy. Damien was completely defenseless. He was forced to liquidate his entire production company, his penthouse, and his brand assets just to settle the multi-million-dollar lawsuit with me. He was utterly and permanently bankrupted. Maya tried to come crawling back during our mandatory divorce mediation. She sat across from me, crying heavy, theatrical tears, claiming Damien had manipulated her, that she was blinded by the industry, and that she was so sorry. I didn't say a word. I just slid the printed transcript of her own audio recording across the mahogany table. I tapped my finger on her exact quote. "He's just a mechanic, Damien. He doesn't have the money to fight us." "I found the money, Maya," I said calmly. Because she had actively, conspired to steal and sabotage my primary business assets, the divorce judge shredded her. She walked away from the marriage with absolutely nothing. No alimony, no share of the house, nothing but a mountain of her own legal debt and a starring role in the most embarrassing viral video of the decade.
It's been almost 3 years since that chaotic broadcast in Las Vegas. After the dust finally settled and the lawsuits were paid out, I sold the real, fully functioning, updated patent for the Phantom Vault. I didn't sell it to a TV hack. I sold it to a legendary, highly respected master illusionist, a man who actually understands the craft, respects the physics, and treats his engineers like true partners. I made enough money from that single sale to buy a massive new commercial workshop, hire a full team of fabricators, and my business has never been better or more secure. Last I heard, Maya is working as a daytime hostess at a budget casino buffet miles off the main Vegas Strip. She spends her days seating tourists, watching people walk in to see the big, spectacular shows, knowing every single day that she voluntarily threw away her golden ticket to the absolute top of the industry. Damien, completely bankrupt and uninsurable for live television, currently performs basic card tricks and balloon animals at children's birthday parties in the suburbs. He has no stage, no TV cameras, no pyrotechnics, and definitely no trapdoors. If there is a lesson to be learned here, it's a simple one. Never disrespect the architect of your reality. If your partner thinks they can steal your hard work, push you into the shadows, and take the spotlight for themselves, don't try to pull them off the stage. Don't fight them for the microphone. Let them step into the box. Hand them the remote control. Let them feel like they've won. And right when they think they're about to pull off the ultimate flawless vanishing act, just drop the walls, cut the lights, and let the whole world see exactly who they really are. Thanks for listening to my story. If you enjoyed this one, drop a like, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments what's the absolute worst, most embarrassing public humiliation you've ever witnessed. Stay sharp, trust the physics, and always inspect the trapdoors.